how many people deal with golfer's elbow or tennis elbow? See, you're already doing this. So the question is, once you do your massage, what are you doing for the people when they leave your office? See, that's where Kinesio comes in, is that you're now going to do something for them that will remain on them for 3 to 5 days. And so one of the jokes was this doctor put this Kinesio tape on one of his patients and said, you know, 3 to 5 days, so the patient comes back and it's 30 days later and he's still got the Kinesio tape on. So the guy said, why do you have this tape on? And he said, you said 35 days. So you have to speak English, make sure they have, no, what did I say? 3, 2, 5, not 35. And the only reason they recommend 3 to 5 days is it's an elastic tape. So after about 3, 4 days, it starts to lose its ability to recoil. And then, you know, as a massage therapist, I think it's pretty obvious that we don't always want something on our skin. So you do it for 3 to 5 days and then leave it off a day or two, then come back and reapply it, just so the skin can breathe and all that kind of stuff. If you have a real critical case, you can retape them immediately, but typically you want to give the skin a little time to relax and breathe. So carpal tunnel is everything from scoliosis. How many people have had a client that had a torn ACL? See, this tape, as you can put pressure here, will help support the knee, even though the ligament is torn. So it gives you a little, gives that person that has a torn ACL a little bit more support, and they'll feel comfortable. It's not going to fix the problem, obviously, but it's all about helping people function. And a lot of people know they have a torn ACL, but they don't want to get the surgery. So this gives you something to do that will allow them to function a little bit better. But when I talk about being sports, some people misinterpret that, oh, this is a sports thing, but it's really not. You can see that DCs, PTs, OTs, all these people are using it. Over 18,000 practitioners purchased Kinesio tape, and this number has gone up significantly since 2004. The big thing about it is that probably 70 to 80% of the application of Kinesio is not sports related. It's common conditions that everybody has, and they're using it in physical therapy. I don't know whether you've ever heard, there's different types of taping. Most people know about the white athletic tape, but there's another taping called McConnell taping. I think she's a physical therapist from Australia, and she developed her own. It's similar to athletic tape, and they tape stuff like knees that aren't tracking right, and shoulders and all that. And the difference in the tape, again, the difference in the tape is that you have to apply a pre-wrap, and it's rigid when you do it, and it restricts range of motion. So you can see that it compresses the skin and joints when you're applying this athletic tape. And the same thing with McConnell. You know, it's got a rigid part to it. There's a pre-taping that you have to do. And see, it's typically left on for a shorter period of time due to its constricting and suffocating feel of the tape being on the people, where the other stuff that you can do for 3 to 5 days. Again, this is just going into a lot more that you need to read, but see, it says using a highly specific design tape that works with the body, allowing full range of motion. So you're not restricting somebody. There are applications of Kinesio. I like to tell people, you know, sometimes if you watch football, the defensive linemen aren't allowed to use their hands. They can't grab on to the guys. So a lot of times they're like this and they're pushing. And what happens is when you do this, it starts to hurt in here a lot. And you're talking 300-pound guys pushing each other around. So there's a way of taping. You take the tape and tape it into the palm of your hand and go to here. And then as they move, you bring the tape down. And what that does is now it makes it harder for you to go in that direction. So it actually is stopping that range of motion. So there are ways of using Kinesio to support something that you don't want to happen. And, it depends on what side of the joint you're putting the tape. And I had a lady that she was a nurse, and she inhaled a bunch of real toxic chemicals, and she lost the ability to walk. Her legs all went into spasm, her toes were curling up and stuff. So what I did was I took a piece of Kinesio and taped it to her shin, but I branched it out to her toes. They were doing this. So what I did is I bent them down, and then I took a piece of Kinesio and ran it to each toe. So her foot started to do this instead of this. And then what happened is she couldn't dorsiflex. So I did that spring. I would take her leg and put it in dorsiflexion and tape the top of the foot to the leg and then do that. So now she didn't have to be worried about not being able to dorsiflex her foot every time she took a step. The other thing was, because her legs were all spastic, was she would put her foot down, but she didn't have control over inversion and eversion very well either. So then I taped the peroneus, and I taped the tibialis anterior, and I held the stirrup of the foot, so that now she didn't have to worry about dorsiflexion, and her toes weren't curling. And that's how you can apply this in so many different ways that maybe you don't even see up here. And they use Kinesio tape for pregnancy. You can tape when a woman's belly, like you actually support pulling up on the stomach. It helps the rectus abdominis from being stretched out. They use it for preemies, or they use it for babies, when their head is kind of misshapen. They will take the Kinesio tape now and help tape the sutures in the head so that the baby's head is more balanced. And so when Dr. Kinsey started inventing the tape, you start giving it to all these people that are professionals, and they know their career and their specialty, and they start inventing new things all the time with the tape.
Mike, do you know of any equine applications that are going on yet?
Yeah. There was a big thing about whether it would work, because how the tape works is actually attached to skin.
Right.
There's a problem with the hair of the horse,
right.
But actually they're saying now that it actually works better without shaving the horse.
Okay.
And they're taping. There was just at this last conference I was at in Orlando. There was two ladies that had brought pictures of horses that they had been taping. Okay. They even had there's a thing with cranes. Have you ever seen cranes that have these really long legs? But they're vulnerable in the knee. So someone had learned how to tape a crane's knee so that it wouldn't be deformed and stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's like that people would just get real inventive with what they're doing.
Dogs with hip dysplasia.
Sure. Yeah. So just know that. Feel free to experiment. We try and give you the basics of why it works.